Attention Northwest Arkansas businesses and talent seekers. Introducing OnboardNWA.com, your hyperlocal job board crafted for our unique community. Struggling to find the perfect match for your job openings? Onboard NWA simplifies the hiring process, connecting you with the region's top talent through tailored talent matching solutions. Whether you're an employer seeking expertise or a professional looking for your next opportunity, Onboard NWA is here for you. Discover more at onboardnwa.com, and let's build the future of Northwest Arkansas together.
Hey, this is Gary Head at Signature Bank of Arkansas. We founded Signature Bank in 2005 with local ownership to serve our communities with the best bankers with the most authority to do business. We have succeeded in growing our bank to over $800 million in assets, including $50 million in growth in the first quarter in 21. We have 155 teammates that love our communities and the customers that we serve. We are always here to serve and eager to do so. As Chairman and CEO, I welcome your call to have the opportunity to serve you. Please call 479-684-4700 or online at signature.bank and tell them that you heard about us at I Am Northwest Arkansas.
It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm excited to be with you today. I have a great guest, and I always try to tell you where I am in the world recording this podcast episode. You know, I've been in my garage, I've been in my bedroom, I've been at Juice Palm when it was up on the 8th Street Market, I've been at the old Fayetteville Public Library. Now I'm at the new Fayetteville Public Library in their isolation sound booth that's part of the Innovation Center. Folks, if you haven't been here, you need to come check it out. That's my quick blurb for the commercial for the Fayetteville Public Library. They've expanded. There's so much to see and do here at the Fayetteville Public Library. You owe it to yourself. If you live in this area, if you work in Fayetteville, if you're eligible for a library card, there's a lot of ways that you can get a library card, even if you don't live in Fayetteville. I want to encourage you to take advantage of this. Every city in Northwest Arkansas is continuing to grow. And one of the ways that you can recognize growth is when you see what a library is doing. And when you see what the Fayetteville Public Library is doing, you'll appreciate it. And Bentonville's now on the mark. I think they're spending somewhere between $15 and $20 million to do their expansion. So it's going to be great. But that's not what I came to talk to you about today on this episode. I am sitting in front of none other than the I Am Gastronome expert, Jeremy Tran. Jeremy is the founder of I Am Gastronome. Some of you probably follow him on Instagram. You've probably seen his photos, but more importantly, you've probably seen his videos where he will kind of give you a back of the kitchen view of what's happening on a regular basis in some of the best restaurants, some of the best food trucks in this area. And we've connected online at first, and then we have a mutual acquaintance in Jeremy Tom's, and she brought us kind of together, and then we kind of said we needed to do something, and finally I'm sitting in front of him, and without further ado, I want to welcome Jeremy Tran to the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I've actually kept my eye on you from a distance, when I first started. So it's honestly, it's kind of great that we finally have finally crossed roads.
I know we've had some coffee together. We've had a chance. We haven't had a chance to break bread yet. And we're going to have to work that out. But no, I'm thrilled to have you here today because I kind of want to talk about a few things. But first, as the audience is used to hearing, I'd love for you just to kind of share your quick Cliff Note version of your superhero origin story. Yeah. How did you get to here? And then we're going to talk about I Am Gastronome.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a first generation Asian American, dropped out of college after 2 years, bet on myself and really, I used to be a sushi chef as well and was just looking, for my passion. And I knew food was that. But, with the restaurant world and just being in that field, I knew, the ups and downs. And I just finally decided to bet on myself and really start, my media firm of I Am Gastronome. And from there, it's been great. And really just a little bit about me, I'm originally from Fort Smith, and I just, I had to get out of that town. And so Northwest Arkansas was calling to me, and I love this area, and this is where I'm planting my flag, and this is what's home to me. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to really kind of lead the way of food media and kind of showing people a different view and being that bridge of, restaurants and foodies and or, customers coming in. Cause I feel like a lot of that times it's transactional and there's just more to it. Food is a universal language. It's a reason why we're able to, be at the table and break bread together and get to know each other. It's the reason why, I get to experience a different culture, to learn about that culture. And it's just food. Honestly, it's just, it's more than just what people think it is. It's such a passion. It's really a lifestyle. And that's kind of how I found my name, right? Gastronome stands for a lover of food. So just like I am Northwest Arkansas, right? I am a lover of food. I'm a gastronome. So
yeah, I love that. That's perfect. And that kind of dovetails nicely into just, understanding. I mean, did you literally just wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to take what I know about food and I'm going to take it online and just share this with the world?
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much COVID was a blessing in disguise. Like, I think that was probably for a lot of people. And, depending on how you looked at COVID, right? I looked at it as an opportunity. So I looked at it as, man, I got a lot more time on my hands. So what am I going to do? And so eventually I just started going out there, just taking pictures of where I was going in Northwest Arkansas, just investing into the brand, investing into the restaurants, and started off with pictures, but I consider myself business savvy. And so I was like, man, there's a couple of other, food accounts around here who are, doing what I'm doing. So it's like, I got to stand out. So that's kind of how I got to videography, and, blessing in disguise that, people were open to it, and they allowed me into their kitchen. They allowed me to interview them. And yeah, having that background of, former sushi chef here for a large, restaurant in Northwest Arkansas, coming from a family-owned restaurant of 27 years and just, helping operate that and just always having a passion for food. Like, it's funny. You ask a lot of my friends, like in college, and if you were to go to in my bedroom, they would say, Jeremy only had two things on the TV, ESPN and Food Network. It never changed. And that is a fact. Like, and so I just, was just trying to find my way, and I just kind of found it through COVID, and it started from pictures now to video, and kind of snowballed into a food community, and I just love every second of it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. I want to qualify something that you say, because I know, somebody corrected me the other day, and I've had to become much more sensitive about how I say certain things. I know with the pandemic, I have said the same exact words, that it has been a blessing in disguise because it's allowed me to be a lot more introspective about some of the things that I'm going through as a 52-year-old man and what I want to do in the future. I think we all recognize, and I know you do, we all recognize that this has not been a good thing for a lot of people. People are dying, and but that does not mean that you can't experience something good in the midst of a challenge, right?
Perspective.
It is perspective. And so I certainly want to qualify that, because, there's always going to be somebody listening that's like, well, this is the worst time ever. And it may very well be for some people. I totally get that. And honestly, I have been so caught up at being at home, and I've wanted to get out and started to free myself up. I went to the first wedding since before the pandemic, and it was weird. I was around family members. Everybody was vaccinated, and I still, was walking around with my mask on. I had to, my wife finally got me to take it off, and I felt more comfortable, but it's just hard. And I think people have to recognize that it's going to be a while before we get through this and get comfortable again, right? But you do have to live your life, and life is going to go on. And opportunities are going to always present themselves, and you've kind of cashed in on that. And so I certainly applaud you by taking the onus on yourself to use this time to perfect your craft.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it came more of like, okay, I'm going to take this time to really find myself, right? I think a lot of people did that. I was like, I'm going to take a period of time during this COVID period and really just like do a lot of, personal perspective and personal, growth and healing. And from there, it really was like, and talking about that's like, I was in a spot where I was like still insecure about myself, still trying to figure out, what I wanted to do, coming, from a family of, college graduates who all had full rides, and I'm the one who bet on myself and decided to drop out, right? And from there, I was like, okay, what can I do to really prove the people wrong? Because I have a chip on my shoulder for sure. But then also at the same time too, it's like, okay, I want to do what makes me happy. And to be quite frank, that time of COVID really allowed me to kind of, breathe and find out who I really was and build up my confidence. But then at the same time too, I was able to surround myself with a much smaller group of friends who honestly, they gassed me up and they pushed me to like do what I wanted to do. Because I mentioned that to them and they're like, and I was kind of like questioning what I was wanting to do at first, but they're like, no, Jeremy, like, your food, like you love, this is your passion. Like, bro, like go do it. And then from there, I just, with their support, I kind of pushed it to where I was like, all right, went to photos, and it slowly went to maybe, let's get a couple of shirts. And then it slowly got to, okay, now I'm learning how to take better pictures. Now, okay, I'm going to learn how to maybe go into video a little bit. And then slowly now to where it's like, boom, like I got clients, I got a team of creatives, I got an organic following. And it's just like, honestly, it's just the journey I enjoy so much. Like I can't wait to see what the next step is. And so it's just a roller coaster of life. And life's a long game. So it's like, how are you going to play it out? And so for me, it's like, I'm going to go in the food world, and this is definitely my passion. This is definitely what I'm going to chase after, no doubt.
Yeah, I love that. And you said a couple of things that really stand out. I want other people listening to this to hear this, that you said it's a long journey, right? It's not the short one. I'm always telling young people, and I mean, how old are you?
25. I turned 26 Christmas Eve.
So you're like half my age, right? So now you're making me feel old. But the advice that I give people, like people are always asking me, and I'm actually speaking to some high school kids in a few weeks, but the woman was like, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I would tell myself is that at 18 is, hey, it's a long game. Yeah. Don't feel like you got to get everything done tomorrow, because it is a long process. Right. And you're going to make some mistakes, and you're going to have some successes along the way. And, outside of some standard, information or advice about compound interest and making sure that you save more than you spend, I think each of our lives are going to be unique in how we deal with it, right? And I think I want to applaud you for how you're approaching it, because that really is the right and healthy way to approach this process that is life, right? And
and I mean, I know you and I have a special interest in following Gary Vee, and to be quite frank, like Gary Vee, he was the very first person that really just like I needed someone to just see on social media, or someone that was just real. And like he had so many things he said that really put like my perspective to like, I'm young. I need to taste a lot of things to find out what I like. Right. And that's what I did, right? I tasted a lot of different things and just in the media world. And I finally was able to bring that into food. And I've tried working at restaurants, but I know like that's not my end goal. And I just like, the earlier you start, the better, of course. But at the very end of the day, like you said, right, it's a long game, and that, if I was to tell someone and that was 18, I was like, just go taste everything as much as you can, whether that's, something in sports, whether it's something in food, whatever it is, just like taste as much as you want, and you will eventually hone your lane to where you want to go. And that's kind of what I did over the past couple of years. And over time, that also built my confidence. That built a more clear of a picture of what I was trying to do. And, here we are. So if anything, just enjoy the process. And that you can't enjoy the process if you don't find something you love and actually enjoy. And that's what's going to get you to that, consistency and long term. Because I mean, if you're just going to chase after the money, like that's only going to give you so much, boost, right? For that short period of time, because you're going to burn out after that. So
yeah, it's not a win-win if you just chase the money. Yeah. And I think that is the challenge that a lot of people have. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't get to fulfill their dreams because they settle, and you don't want to settle. Yeah. I think life is too short from that perspective. I don't think you should ever settle. I think you should kind of know what you want and be more in tune with yourself. That's where you maybe have to ask some of those questions about what were the things that you were passionate about as a kid, because a lot of stuff comes full circle, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you were like in your mom's kitchen or in your family's kitchen as a kid and kind of taking that all in, and now it's just come full circle where you're like, wow, I'm right back here again, but I'm doing it in a different way. Yeah.
I mean, I was definitely that short, chubby kid growing up, and so, and grow up in that Asian household, you're told to work hard. You're told to, finish all your food, respect and all that stuff. And yeah, it definitely came, in a full circle in the sense that like I always loved food as a kid. And if I found a lane now to kind of showcase that, But, it also came full circle in the sense that like, my parents wanted me to go to school and I went to make them happy, but I didn't want to do that. But I'm thankful that I did go just because of the people that I met and the tasting again of what, I could potentially want in life. And so, after I dropped out and I it was tough for my parents, obviously coming from, the Asian, background and being the youngest and having to follow the footsteps of your siblings and all this stuff. But, I told my mom and dad, I was like, listen, do you believe, the values and everything that you've invested in me, that you've instilled into me? And they said, yes. I'm like, okay, well, just let me bet on myself then. And since then, like, yeah, it's became a full circle to where maybe at first, it was kind of, there was a lot of tension between my family and I in our relationship. But now long term, like I'm the happiest I've ever been. My mom, my parents have told me like, Jeremy, we like are so proud of you, of the man you become, what you have built, what you're chasing after, and like the work ethic you have. Like we are so impressed and we love you so much. So like just hearing that, right, and betting on myself and then getting the validation from like, my family saying that they're proud of me, like that right there was really, I would say, a milestone in my life. And that's something that I carry with myself each and every day, because it's like, yeah, I still have a chip on my shoulder with these other, I'm not gonna name any names, but I got, chips on my shoulders from people and organizations that I'm still trying to prove wrong to this day. So it's like, if I can prove an Asian family, an Asian culture wrong and go against the grain, then I can definitely do anything else.
Right. Well, the sky is the limit, right?
Right.
So, well, let's talk a little bit about, because again, you got into this at the most interesting time ever, the pandemic.
Yeah.
And the fact that it really did impact a lot of restaurants, a lot of food trucks in the area. So what did you find? What was the landscape like when you first got into it versus now, today? We're now October 2021 at the time of recording this. What changes did you see happen in that short period of time?
Yeah. So, when I first started, right, I just saw that, there was just nobody speaking for these restaurants. Yes, people were taking pictures and saying, oh, that's great. Anyone can make a picture look good. Like, let's be honest. And then, I felt like there needed to be more of a voice behind these restaurants, more of a humanization, someone that they can relate with when they walk in. And so, there was, when I first got in, there was really just pictures. There was really nothing more than that. Right. And then from there, like, I was like, okay, I gotta, go against the grain, break the cycle a little bit. And that's kind of how video kind of happened. That's how kind of I started, adding music and just adding, and then really just putting my face out there, because I wanted to humanize my brand and really show that like, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I come from this background and like, hey, I'm a big foodie. So like, I take my food credibility very seriously. So it's like, this is what I recommend. Let me know what you think. And so organically, I built my following that way, to the sense that now people have come to me, restaurants have come to me for any like recommendations, whether it's like from a business standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, but even from the foodies are like, hey, where do I go for this? Where do I go for that? And so it's kind of cool, honestly, kind of being that quote unquote face, or just that, that go-to, that point of contact, that go-to person who I can always go to and ask, and he'll always respond of like, hey, this is honestly his, what I recommend that you should go to for that specific occasion. Or, hey, if you're looking for this specific cuisine, this is where I would go because of X, Y, and Z. And it's kind of been great being that point, not only for the foodies of telling them, where they should go and exposing them to new restaurants, but and food trucks, but also at the same time too, on the business side of things, I have restaurants and food trucks coming to me and asking me like, hey, can you like help us bring more traffic? Can you help us, put us on? Can you help us with our social media? It's like, we understand that social media, there's a room for it. That's how, we've been able to grow, especially during COVID. Like, what do we need to do? So it's like, I'm able to finally bring everything that I tasted and everything that I learned all into one now. So it's just like, you never think that would have happened, or I would never expect to be here where I am now. But again, I had to go through the journey. I had to taste, and I had to invest like into myself, into these restaurants, into the brand, and to the point, where I'm not making money, but it's like, I enjoy it. I don't mind it. But then it just came to the part where now that, I was putting these restaurants on, and then I was like, oh man, I got something here, because restaurants are now messaging me saying, Jeremy, like your post caught on fire and our restaurants literally turned 180. Right. And it's like, wow, I did that. Like I helped with that. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, so I started feeling a sense of responsibility And then I started feeling a sense of responsibility with the foodies, because it's like, if I'm not consistent on social media, it's like, I'm going to lose their interest. I'm going to, I'm not going to be able to tell them what's going on. And, again, I want to put my face out there. So it's like, I want to make sure that they're talking to a real person, that's me. And so it's like, I have a sense of responsibility that way too. And so like, there's times where I'm hard on myself, and I'm very transparent with my community and very organic with them. And they're like, Jeremy, like, you need to chill out, dude. Like, you need to go take a break. It's okay. Like, it's okay if you don't post. And I'm like, I know, but it's like, it's my love, and I want to be on top of it. So yeah, it's kind of transformed now to where it's a full on business, to where we have a lot of projects now. I'm working with a lot of different media outlets. I'm actually also working with the University of Arkansas, to where they're sending me throughout every single region in the state of Arkansas, and we're going to be highlighting minority-owned restaurants. So yeah, we've already done that for NWA and Fort Smith. And so next we're going to Hot Springs and then going to Little Rock. So it's just a roller coaster adventure that I just like am having so much fun with.
Man, that is so exciting. And I'm glad to hear that, because, as a fellow entrepreneur and as somebody that's kind of spun something up out of nothing, if you will, it's always nice to get that validation, right? For people to say, oh, I really like what you're doing. And I hear it all the time. And I was sharing with you a couple of stories that I've heard on a regular basis. And I know you have those stories in spades. So I think those are the things that's the fuel, right? That we need as we continue to go out there and stretch our muscle and develop our ability to tell a story and to share something that is compelling enough that other people want to latch on to.
Right. And it's a little bit of a balance too, right? With getting, some of that, that love, right, from the restaurants or the foodies, the community. And they're like, hey, you did a great job. Like, hey, I love your page. And it's like, it's so great to hear that, because sometimes you need that. You feel like you put in so much work. You're like, man, is it really worth it? And so it's like, when you get those messages, those validations, it's like, oh, that's nice. But then at the same time too, it's like, don't let it get to your head. Like I personally, like, I say to myself, like, I have people who recognize me and come say hi to me. And it's kind of weird. It's like that quote unquote local celebrityness or whatnot. And I'm like, I'm not chasing after that or anything, but it's like having people come up to me and say hi to me and stuff like that. Like that's really, really cool and dope. But at the same time too, it's like, I know that I'm nobody special, right? I put my shoes on, I put my pants on the exact same way as everyone else. Like, I'm still chasing after my dream. Like, I'm nobody, like, that you need to put on a pedestal. Like, I'm just like you, who just found out what I wanted, and I just got started, and I tasted and I failed, and I found myself where I am now. And so it's just, you have to enjoy the process at the very end of the day.
Yeah, you do. And I do. That's something that I have enjoyed, and it looks like you are doing that as well. And I think that's what makes it easy to get up each day, right?
Yeah.
And to just keep doing it over and over again. So,
yeah.
So tell me, what would you, because I know people that are listening to this are going to eventually say, well, yeah, he's got to give us his list of best places to go, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But before we even get into that, I do want to provide kind of like a how-to, especially for some of the local restaurants that may be struggling to get the word out. What would you say would be some of the things that a restaurant could easily do or tweak to just, let people know a little bit more about what's going on?
Yeah. So, so with my family, for example, right? And this gives you some context. My family now, if they were to open up a restaurant, they said, Jeremy, we would want you to run it. We would want you to handle all kind of the operation side of things and marketing, because we realize that that's very important. It's not the old school, a framework of like, hey, it's gonna be word of mouth. Hey, it's gonna be TV commercials, whatever, like stuff like that. And so stuff like that is honestly, it's old, and there's a place and time for it, but right now you have to be able to evolve. And so a lot of the times when I talk to restaurants, it's like, simply just get on social media, right? At least just start having a Facebook and Instagram page and make it look, decent, right? With the bio of what you guys are, where they can find you, your time, your operating times, and maybe, some specials that you may have. And I'm telling you this now, like, doing social media and all that stuff is another job in of itself, right? Because you have to be consistent. You have to put out, quality content, and creating quality content comes with quantity, right? I had to put out these pictures so much to where I was like, okay, now I know what looks good, what doesn't look good, right? And so it's just, and just doing that, and that comes with time. But if I were to tell a restaurant, if they were opening up, a brand new restaurant starting for the first time, or they're, realizing that they need to, more exposure, I would say, one, obviously get your social media game up on as many platforms as you can, especially Facebook and Instagram for sure. I think having a website is also great, because we saw what happened, to those platforms. And so having a website is also great, but also 3, put a face out there. A lot of restaurants, I've realized, they just showcase their food. They don't put a face as to who's at the restaurant. Exactly. Yeah. And so that's another big key. And a lot of people are afraid to put themselves out there, but it's like, I get that. But at the very end of the day, it's business and you got to do what you got to do to be successful. And that's going to help you by humanizing yourself and the restaurant. So,
yeah, no, I love that. People, and I always say this over and over again, people work with people they like and people do business with people that they like. So I highly would recommend that. You know, Jeremy, you mentioned a number of things that I have seen a lot of places here in Northwest Arkansas. When you come from a big city like Boston, right? You figure like in Boston, a lot of restaurants have their game on point. It's on point.
Yeah.
And here it's you see it from time to time, but then there's some inconsistencies. Maybe your hours are misrepresented, or you've got some really old menu photos, and people eat with their eyes first more than anything else. And I'm thinking, man, that's like the easiest way for you to kind of start to build some momentum by just putting out some amazing photos.
Right.
And kind of going from there. And like you said, I mean, it's more than just in a dimly lit restaurant taking a selfie of that meal that you just ordered. I mean, you've got to understand lighting and all that other stuff. So
yeah. I mean, from just a restaurant owner's perspective, it's just like, you have to understand from a mindset like, hey, hiring someone or getting help or just doing marketing, it's more than just exposure and putting yourself out there. It's also a sales funnel, so that if you're consistent, people are always going to see you, to be forefront of your mind. All these new restaurants are coming in. If you're consistent on social media, you're still going to be in the forefront of their mind. You're going to have returning customers. They're going to know your specials. They're going to know what the food looks like from beginning to end, so you start really building a relationship with that restaurant. And then that's when you start having returning customers. Then that's when you start having servers that start recognizing the same people that come in and in. And then they start recurring relationships with these customers. So then every time those foodies come back in, they ask for that server. So it's like being in marketing is not just about pictures and videos. There's so much more to it that you just have to understand that marketing is just the foundation of it.
Yeah.
So I hope that with these new restaurants and even the older restaurants really start understanding that, listen, like it may have worked for you in the past, doing the old ideas, but now it's like adjust if you especially want to stay here long term and not get forgotten about when these new restaurants come in.
Yeah, no doubt. And even I would say go old school, build an email list, consider texting as an optional way of you to stay in touch with your customers. Because I will say this, some of us experienced, and at the time of recording this, I think we're like a week removed from when Facebook and Instagram went down for a whole day and people were losing their you-know-what, because they were like, oh my God, I can't do this or that. And that's a perfect example of why you don't want to always digitally sharecrop, as I like to call it, but also have some assets that you actually have access to 100%. So
the more the better. It's like, if you're on more platforms on social media, the better it is, right? Yeah. And so it's the exact same thing. Yeah, you got to make sure that you're really doing everything at the very end of the day. Yeah, there's old school techniques. Not saying that they don't work, because they do, but there's a time and place for it. Yeah. And so, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what you have found from a food perspective, right? So for people that are listening to this that might be considering moving here and they're coming from the San Diego area, and I know you were recently up in the Bay Area where I used to live, and you were checking out a couple of really good restaurants, one of which I was familiar with.
Which restaurant?
I'm trying to. It was the Asian restaurant in
the hot pot one.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
nice. Okay. Yeah.
That's in San Pablo. Wait, where was that? That was
I was on the east side of the bay, near Dublin.
San Leandro, right?
I think so.
San Leandro. It was in San Leandro.
Yeah, around that area.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, there's a lot of good spots. But when I saw you do that, I was like, oh man, this dude's he's going national. So, checking out all kinds of stuff. Then you were down in Dallas checking out the Korean fried chicken spot down there, which is really good.
Yeah.
And they actually have one of those out in the Bay Area too. So, cool. Because I think it's a franchise.
It is. It is actually kind of cool because, obviously, with food, anywhere I'm I'll travel for food, right? And so it was actually kind of funny because, when I was actually in Dallas, we went to the, Bonchon Korean fried chicken.
Sure.
Yeah, we did all that. And they actually saw my post and they messaged me here hey, we love what you did. Can you send us some of this stuff? I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, they're like, hey, we would love to work together there in 2022 for influencer marketing and all that stuff. I was like, oh, snap. This is okay, this is awesome. And so it's just, again, I never expected it. I don't go in doing stuff with expectations or having, expectations of getting anything in return, but it's just me just putting in the work and just boom, look at where we are now. So yeah, I agree. I mean, I love Northwest Arkansas. There's always going to be home, but I definitely want to expand, down the road.
Absolutely. Well, no, we're not going to hold you back, and we'll support you, because one day we'll be able to say, yeah, we remember Jeremy Nguyen, and look at what he's built. Yeah,
right. Absolutely.
And so this is also a great home base to build things from.
Oh, so. Absolutely. I'm always going to rep Northwest Arkansas. I love this place. It's really built me to who I am now. And honestly, I told myself I was always going to leave Arkansas, but I think it was more my hometown I was trying to get out of.
Sure.
And I just love Northwest Arkansas. Best place to raise a family. It's growing. Money goes a long way here. Community is awesome. It's very, I told my friends this and everyone that I talk to, it's like, if there's one word to describe Northwest Arkansas, it's local.
Yeah.
Like everything is local, which is awesome. That means you get to create great relationships. You get great quality food, great quality products. And it's just like, it's a great area to be in.
It is. So now with that said, and again, I'm not going to put you on the spot to kind of pick and choose, but what would you say to somebody coming here about just the variety of food that is available and accessible? Because that was a concern that I had in 2014 when I moved here. Mm-hmm. Coming from Boston, I could get a little bit of everything. I could get Caribbean. Yeah. I could get Middle Eastern. I can get Asian. Of course, Chinatown in Boston is known for its food. And but coming here, what could somebody expect?
If one, go to local restaurants, right? If you're coming to Northwest Arkansas. Two, you can expect, honestly, a variety of food, whether it's food trucks or even, brick and mortars. And so it depends on what you're looking for. But what you're looking for, we pretty much have in the sense that, okay, so for example, you want sushi? Oh, we have plenty of sushi restaurants, but then it's like, what end do you want to go to? You want to go to Blue, where they're flying and their fish every day.
It's fresh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Or do you want to go to somewhere, you just get some normal sushi, right? So there's that. But then there's also Mimi's Caribbean, like you can get that at some Rogers. Yeah. You can get a locally black-owned restaurant in Fayetteville that's doing chicken wings, like the very best, like making everything from scratch. Like I love it. One of my probably top 5 restaurants. And then you can definitely find authentic Chinese food here in Springdale. Like Springdale is a great hub for just it's really a hub for food. Honestly, you can get the best Mexican. If you ever get Mexican food, just go to Springdale, right? You'll be okay with that, right?
We just did an episode about that recently with the 5 new things, and they weren't really new things, but they were 5 of the best taquerias,
right?
And we talked about Taqueria Don Guero and a few others, and I think you shouted out one of them that was your favorite or one of your favorites.
Yeah,
so.
There's so many, and then there's food trucks out here too, and so and there's vegan options now as well. There's soul food as well, and it's just like honestly, like, what you want, you can definitely find here now. And it's still growing. There's still people now who are trying to, spice things up a little bit, getting like a mac and cheese food truck now I've heard of. And then there's, people who are, doing strictly, events in their operable, food truck where they're actually driving. And it's like the food community here is exploding. And then we have events too, where we're doing like, for example, Buy Up NWA. And I personally want to be able to throw an event to where we're having local food trucks and local vendors here too. So it's like the food here, you can definitely expect it's all going to be, a lot of it's going to be local. A lot of it is going to be, just great flavor overall. Like there's very few restaurants that I dislike here in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course we have the normal chains, but there are so many local restaurants and just so many places with some really great stories. Mm-hmm. And, quietly, we've got like either James Beard nominated restaurants from a design perspective and from a culinary perspective. Right. So we've got some legit chops in the food space. And when The Roots does their festival and they bring in all of these, top chefs. And I think about all the people that have been here, Marcus Samuelson and, oh man, what's the big dude's name with the white glasses? I can't think of his name right now. It's driving me crazy. He's one of the voters on Next Top Chef or whatever with, I can't think of his name right now, but he's been here. There's just been so many.
Yeah.
And it's just, we actually have, and then I think about people like Heirloom and Jason Paul and Matt Cooper. And we've just got an embarrassment of riches when it comes to just top-notch, top-flight chefs.
Yeah. And we're just getting started too is the thing, right? We just had Pizzeria Ruby opened. That's exploding.
Michael Robert Shaw, shout out to my man. I mean, when you will order pizza, you want to order a pizza from a dude that's like Michael Robert Shaw. He's a Boston guy. He knows what he's doing. I saw you had shared some pizza with our mutual chiropractor. Those pizzas are huge. I mean, my kids love. I mean, we've taken a lot of people there, but shout out to Chef Michael Robert Shaw and the rest of his team there at Pizzeria Ruby. They're doing a phenomenal job.
Absolutely. And there's still expansion for us to have, like right now, right? We're slowly finally starting to have, more cooking classes and stuff like that.
Right,
and that's something, exactly. And that's something that's been missing. So like there's so many opportunities just from a food perspective that we haven't hit yet. But like it's going to be touched here in Northwest Arkansas, no doubt.
Yeah. And actually, when we're done with this recording, I'm going to walk you over to the commercial kitchen that's part of the library here, where you can actually rent out kitchen space and create your own cloud kitchen if you wanted to spin up an idea for a restaurant.
Yeah. Hey, don't even get me started long term. I got a big picture long term.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities, but that's like right here under your nose. Right. A lot of people listening don't have any idea that that's even there.
Yeah. I mean, people even realize, like, even here in Northwest Arkansas, they don't realize, and I'm just now realizing it too, it's like you have so many different resources like Startup Junkie or Kiva and or Forge and like all these different people that you can honestly like get advice from, consulting from, get freaking, loans from for 0% interest. Like there's so many opportunities out there that, in like Northwest Arkansas wants to support local restaurants. They want you to start your entrepreneurship and venture, and they want you to see you succeed. And so it's like, you got to take advantage of these resources and like use that as your foundation to scale and catapult. So
yeah. No, it's endless, the opportunities that are here, and especially on the food side of things. Both if you are a food creator or you're a food entrepreneur, right? Because some people are, and they're just like, I just want to spin up and start a new restaurant, or I have an idea and I want to do that. I mean, they were talking. I was watching a Nightline episode where they were talking about the prevalence of cloud kitchens that are cropping up. And when you think of a cloud kitchen, it's essentially what it is. It's somebody has taken a menu, put it out on Uber Eats or DoorDash, and they're offering their food through, hopefully a clean commercial kitchen. And they are testing out a menu to see if it has any traction.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Instead of building up a bricks and mortar business, they're creating this kitchen theoretically in the cloud, but you can access it and order it. And maybe it's open from Thursday through Saturday or Thursday through Sunday, and you can try it out. Now, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can be your proof of concept, right? Before you go to a food truck or go to a brick and mortar, or it could actually be your full-time hustle. But then you got to make sure that you're on your social media game, right, at that point, so people can find you. So like there's a lot of different ways for you to get into the food game. It's just like what works for you the best,
Man, I tell you, I keep telling I wish my wife's family is from Trinidad and she can make roti like nobody's business. And I always tell people, rotis, could be put, what is roti? And I'm like, well, roti is basically a Caribbean burrito.
Okay.
But it's the best. I mean, it's just the way that they wrap it up, and they can put curry goat in there. They can put oxtail in there. You could put shrimp in there. They mix up all kinds of spices. Sometimes, you put sweet potato in there and a lot of other, really good vegetables, and they mash it up, and it looks like a burrito, but it's a roti.
Yeah. But then check this out, though. It's like if someone's never been to the Caribbean islands, or someone's never aware of what Caribbean food is, and Caribbean food is a bunch of islands and just taking a fusion of a little bit of everything and putting it together. And like people would have never known that. Or if we weren't talking about it now, or if they didn't go to, a Caribbean restaurant and actually had that. So it's like, food is like a universal language at the end of the day, right? And it's so great to be able to experience someone's culture or get a taste of it through delicious food,
Yeah, no, that's it. Man, we could go on and on talking about this, and I think you certainly have highlighted a number of things that we should be thinking about, and we're going to certainly have to do this again and maybe even talk about it or do an episode on just how you leverage social media to get the word out.
Yep.
Right. And how you kind of package yourself for that. I've been thinking about doing kind of like a how-to episode like that, because again, our podcast focuses on the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life here in the Ozarks. But I mean, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Right. And I think it's something that a lot of people are thinking about.
Yeah.
A lot of people are getting out of the 9 to 5, and you're going to have more people trying to start up something on their own. And maybe it's just something where you support you and your family. You're not going to have a bunch of employees, but there's all kinds of opportunities out there.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, just to piggyback off that, I mean, one, you got to ask yourself, does this side hustle or is this, is 9 to 5 or whatever it is, right? Does that make you happy? One. And then two, it's really, getting out there and betting on yourself, on getting out there, doing your own venture. And also three, it's just like, there's people out there to support you at the very end of the day. Like people want you to succeed. And the people who don't, they're just insecure about themselves. So it's just like, put yourself first and just bet on yourself. Like, the negative voice you hear inside your head, like it wasn't like it was put there by somebody. You weren't just born with negative energy. And so it's like, realize, where that's coming from and just know that, you're a great person, that I'm nobody special. Randy's nobody special. We're just the exact same people doing what we love, and that you can do the exact same thing. And that if you maybe need support, need help, like reach out, like don't feel like that, you're too good for that. Like nobody's self-made. And so for me, I personally just had a great support system, but then at the same time too, I finally just had that self-confidence and I just didn't care what other people thought. And, people were questioning like what I was doing, but like now they see me, they're like, dang,
I got it. Yeah.
I got it. I get what he's doing now. I support it, but it's like, where were you since day one? And so it just goes back to that chip on your shoulder, a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's just finding your why. Why are you doing this? I did it because, I was tired of the 9 to 5 job and I wanted to be happy and I wanted to, again, entrepreneurship is in my blood just from my family. And so it was just like, I finally decided to do it and here I am.
Yeah. And those that are, and I'm using air quotes here, that are with you, they're always going to be with you, even on the ups and downs, right? You just have to understand that. That's just the way that it is. So, it's all good. So,
yeah. But then you're always going to meet people who are like, for example, you and I have met and we have the same mindset and the same passion, right? We met Jera. And so it's just like all these people, as you keep on going, put yourself out there to like meet new people. And that right there, like, it's just networking at the very end of the day.
Networking and relationship building, right? Because I'm building a relationship with you. I'm building a relationship with Jara and so many other people. And actually, none of that would have been possible had I not started this podcast.
Absolutely.
Period.
Right. Yeah.
End of story. That's it. Mic drop right there.
Yeah.
So that's just it. Listen, if people want to get in contact with you outside of your amazing Instagram page, which is just at I am Gastronome, and that's GASTRONOME.
Yep.
How can they reach you?
Well, my page, obviously there you go. If you feel free to look up A Lover of Food, if that's easier, I should be the very first one that'll pop up. But all my information's there. My cell phone is on there. My email is on there. So like, I take the time to respond back to every single person.
Yeah.
And I do that because I know that like, again, I'm not better than anybody and that this person just, has a question. So like, I'm like, if they can take time to message me and comment on something, how can I not take 15 seconds to, reply back? And it's been great because I've built relationships with these followers to where it's like we're hanging out outside, of office, or we're going to go grab a bite to eat, or we're just randomly linking up. And it's just like that right there. That's the real like human element of just putting yourself out there and meeting these people and just knowing that like, again, I'm just a regular guy doing what I love.
I love that. Well, yeah, that's perfect. You're absolutely right. I have developed so many new friendships because of this podcast, and I'm just thankful for that. So, and that's really what it's all about. But thank you so much for just taking time out of your schedule to come sit down with me. And I know you and I might be working on some things in the near future. So, folks, stay tuned for that. We've, just as a little subtle hint, because I'm not going to just watch this sit on the sidelines and watch Jeremy have all the fun. I'm going to partner up with him. We're going to figure out a way for us to kind of do some stuff together back to back. So please stay tuned for that. And Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Really Thanks for having me. Northwest Arkansas is going to grow even more, and we're excited to be a part of it. And, if you're out there and you're debating on whether you want to get started, just start. Just start. And then for those of you that are out there, meaning you don't live here, but you're thinking about moving here, what are you waiting for? So, so I certainly want to encourage that. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely, Randy. Can't wait till next time.
Yep. Well, folks, that's another episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. To learn more about us or to read or download the show notes from today's episode, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. You can listen to this podcast and sign up for our free newsletter to keep up with us and all things NWA. Sign up today. You can also follow the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast wherever you listen to it. And please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Remember, our podcasts come out every Monday, rain or shine. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and we'll see you back here next week for a new episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.